Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the different ways that Filipinos eat chocolate. If you haven't seen part 1, be sure to check it out in the link in the description below. Otherwise, welcome back and we'll just keep it going here. For our last dish, we are making that dish called Binutong. And if you recall last night, instead of soaking it in water, we just soaked this in coconut milk. So hopefully it can retain more fat than they would on the champorado. So once this thing hits a boil, I'm going to stop it. And then we're gonna steam this mixture when the time comes. So I added a little bit of water because I noticed that the bottom was starting to burn. So the rice did absorb all of the water in that coconut milk, and there's just fat there, so I wanted to give it a little bit of cushion so that the rice doesn't get toasted at the bottom. Now this is basically boiling here. Again, there's not a lot of water left in here, so I'm trying to be careful not to toast the rice in the bottom, but as you can see, it's basically not emulsified. It's basically starting to absorb the fat in the coconut milk. So I'm gonna turn this off, and then I'm gonna let this cool, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap this mixture in banana leaf. Actually, I need to add a little bit of salt, but I'm gonna wrap this mixture in banana leaf and then steam it. Time to let this cool down. I'm gonna wash some dishes and probably see you in about an hour. So as I opened up this coconut cream, I made sure to rinse the top. If you're Filipino, it's just a practice that you get used to. In the Philippines, they say that these things kind of get stored where insects and stuff will lay eggs in between. Don't know that that's true, but I'm just doing it for the culture at this point. So unlike coconut milk, coconut cream, it has the globs of fat still from the coconut cream and much less water here. So what I'm going for is that Binutong will have the freshest part of the coconut milk, like first press, and it actually comes off a little bit sour, a little bit savory. And then what we'll do is we'll balance it out by pouring some of that Chokolate-a in it. I'm gonna try to blend this up and see if we can kind of Frankenstein something similar. So these are frozen banana leaves. You can get fresh if you want. If you get fresh ones, make sure you toast it over the oven. As you can see, my mom toasted this because it makes it more pliable. I'm gonna portion this out. Here's what I think is hopefully one binutong. And then, because I'm trying to make it fattier, I'm just gonna add some of this to it. Because you want it, you want it like this watering out texture. And then we are going to wrap it. It doesn't have to be perfect. All it has to do is hold in the rice. If you're still watching, you're amazing. This is extremely cultured stuff here, and I'm just happy to be sharing my mom's culture with you guys. But when we steam this in the banana leaf, it's gonna impart all of that flavor that banana leaves have. It's gonna be kind of earthy and sweet smelling. A lot of Southeast Asian cultures do this, so wrapping things in banana leaf is not unique to Filipinos, but it makes it taste and smell so good. Oh no, is it bleeding through? Yeah, it's bleeding through. So Because it's bleeding through right there, I am going to use some of this stuff and just give it another layer just to help it out, help it stay in there. So I don't have a steamer. I don't care to have a steamer. What I'm gonna do is I'll throw it in here. And at the Asian stores, you can buy these little flour things. And you'll fill this up with water, throw that in there, and then it'll steam. So let me get some water and I'll be right back. So I am putting, I would say, a significant amount of water in here because we are going to cook this for 45 minutes. These are a little bit tall for the lid that I have, but we will just make do. I think what I'm gonna do is I will construct a little steam situation with aluminum foil. I'm not saying this is perfect, but this is what we got. I just made a little hole for myself here so I can be sure to monitor the water in case we need to add more. So hopefully this works. If it doesn't, we'll just cook it for an hour instead of the 45 minutes. To accompany the binutong that we're steaming over here, we're gonna make the chokolate-a with the more rustic tablea that I showed you guys. I'll be making this so you can see the difference in how easy the commercially prepared one is and the more rustic one, because I prefer the more rustic tablea to drink and to eat. So we are going to make 3 tableas worth of chocolate because I'm gonna be drinking it as well as adding it to the binutong. So here it is with water that I'm first gonna add. Take a look here, that is like barely submerged. I'm gonna add just a little bit of water, but again, you're going for almost a 50-50 tablea to water ratio. This one is going to take much longer to break down and emulsify. So we're starting to get boiling on this rustic tablea. And unlike the other one, you can see that it starts to chunk almost right here, rather than the other one where it becomes almost fluid. Gotta make sure you're stirring it so it doesn't reburn. See how it's like kind of chunky versus the other one? It actually is a pretty cool way of having it because the rusticness and like the not refined tablea gives it more texture as you're drinking it. It feels a lot less like hot chocolate and it gives it this unique sublimation situation where it's not solid, it's not liquid, and it's just an amazing thing to drink and experience. You can see this right here. It's actually more bubbly and aerated almost than the other one. Let's see if I can get it to tip over. Yeah, it's like bubbly and aerated, but this is definitely a longer on the heat, off the heat. If you watch Gordon Ramsay's scrambled eggs, he does this whole on the heat, off the heat situation. The trick with this one, with the more rustic one, is it doesn't dissolve perfectly, so there may be a lot of chunks that you really need to get to. See, every time you pick it up, there's chunks. If you don't like it thick, you can always just add more water after, especially if you have one of those zojurishi water heaters like we do. You can always add it, and that way you don't lose too much temperature. See, look, it really looks different compared to this is the refined one right here, and this is how it looks right now with a more rustic version. Ow! Perfect timing. We are now done with this. Here we go, finishing up 50 minutes of steaming the binutong here before we get a copyright claim. Hopefully my MacGyver worked. Looks like partial success here. We've got some coconut milk dripping out on the corner over there, but this one looks to have survived mostly. Now that the binutong is done, I am going to pour out this chokolate-a so you guys can see how different it might be. And you can even see it just on the lip right there where it is still grainy. See how it looks almost like a slurry versus, oh God, I forgot to put sugar. So it looks almost like a slurry versus the other one that was smooth. So no problem that we forgot it. I'm sure you guys have all sorts of syrups at the house. My wife is Korean, so I'm going to add this rice syrup so I don't have to worry about heating it up. You're gonna need a solid amount because, well, it's chocolate. I'm gonna put some in here. You know, if you're ever worried about how much syrup you're putting in, think about how much you put in pancakes. You usually put a lot, and that's for one pancake. Well, still needs more. Luckily, it's still warm, so I can do all of these corrections pretty quickly. That is it. Like, you want the sweetness to be almost like a cafecito that you get, where it's just this punch of sweet and bitter, but you only need a little. You just need that espresso shot's worth. So here is the plate that I've made for myself, as well as the glass for the chokolate-a. I wanted to show the top-down view because it's hard to show how this ends up, but Binutong, I believe it says it's like wrapped is what it translates to in mom's region. So you see the coconut milk almost coming out of there. That's from the leak that we tried patching earlier. So now I'm ready to cut this. Even in the Philippines, this like juicing of the coconut milk is almost inevitable. But actually, let's try. So it has now become this like savory. So if you recall, I actually put salt in it. And it is now more of that savory type of sticky rice, similar to what's wrapped in you know, those Chinese dim sum. This also resembles the savoriness of a mango sticky rice. This isn't perfect, but it's close. You see the fat just coming out of it. I could probably have added a little bit more fat, maybe a little bit less salt. But now you've got this savory sticky rice with the earthy flavors of the banana leaf. So what you're gonna do is you'll pour this in as you want it. I'll just start off with that for now. Now we've poured that in, and we are gonna go for the taste test. So I'll assemble the bite here. So you've got that chocolate coated sticky rice. So unlike the champorado, you taste so much more of the terroir in the sense of like, you've got banana leaf in there, you've got coconut milk in there, and that's more of the focus because this comes off as a little bit salty, earthy, bitter, and the sweetness is just there for you to feel like this is a well-rounded dish. This, I would say, is closer to a mole taste profile because this would never be in the realm of dessert. This runs more like a snack. In the Philippines, this would be either a breakfast or what we call a merienda, which is that thing that you eat around 3 or 4. If you're a kid, you eat it after school. But this is pretty dang close as far as what we can get in the US. Wow. I cannot believe how this turned out. Thank you. Thank you for coming with me on this journey because this, it's a lot of work, but it's awesome. If you are ever in the Philippines, this is from the Bicol region. My mom is from Albay. And so if you can find Binutong, I'll put the spelling down here, that puts you at like level 10 Filipino where a lot of people from Manila haven't had this before. To my Bicolanos, shout out because I miss this dish so much. See how much thicker the rustic one is? The rustic one is way better. You want the grains in there. One way of describing this is you typically have a fruit smoothie versus fruit juice. And in that smoothie, particularly with starchy fruits like mangoes where it has these threads, it kind of feels like that, where you're drinking more of a smoothie. It's much richer, much more filling, rather than this perfectly clean, emulsified hot chocolate. So if you can get this kind of grassroots Tablea, go get it. Don't look for the big stuff. Make sure that it's this rustic grind, a little coarse even. With that, thanks for watching part 2 of how Filipinos eat chocolate. Thanks. That's a banger. That's a banger.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.